Hey guys, so bit of breaking news here. Almost, news that was broke about, I would say, an hour and a half ago, my time, but broken basically an hour and a half ago. But it seems that Ring of Honor, ROH, is going to be going on hiatus after Final Battle in 2 months, at the end of the year, basically. And apparently, the plan is to come back in April of next year for Supercard of Honor. And although that sounds great and everything, there is one minor issue with that. Or actually, it's not a minor issue, it's a major issue. And that is, how are they supposed to put on Supercard of Honor if they don't have a roster? Because apparently, along with, going on a hiatus, they've made the announcement that effective at the end of the year, all of their talent will be released. And those that have contracts up till March of 31st, 2022, have to go talk to, I think they said his name was Greg Gilliland, to get out of those contracts to work elsewhere. I mean, here's what they say. This is on their own Twitter page. This was retweeted by Just Alex, formerly Delexman. Here's what they had to say about the situation, and I quote, "Throughout the pandemic, our top priority was to keep everyone healthy and safe. And despite not producing any live events over 18 months, we were able to keep everyone fully contracted. We now find ourselves at a time where we need to make changes to our business operations and are planning a pivot for Ring of Honor with a new mission and strategy. The year will culminate with a final battle in December, and we will be taking the first quarter of 2022 to work eternally to reimagine ROH. ROH has the most dedicated fans in the industry, and we appreciate the loyalty and patience as we reconceptualize Ring of Honor. We anticipate returning to live events in April for the Supercard of Honor with a new fan-focused product and provide a unique experience for wrestling fans." And what that is to me, basically what that is to me when it comes to code, if you will, that's code to me for, yeah, financially we need to shut down temporarily to reconstruct our finances, and the best way to start off by doing that is to release everybody from their contracts and anybody else that has contracts till next year so we can financially figure out where we are. That's what this message is telling me. That's what this message is code for. Basically, that financially they need to basically reconfigure, eternally how they're going to spend money and sign talents to contracts. But it also tells me that, by reading this, not only are they financially going to have to eternally restructure the company, but also they got to figure out how to make Ring of Honor more appealing for today's wrestling audience, because what they're giving us now is great, and it was great back in the early to mid 2010s and early to mid 2000s, if not the late 2000s. But now things have changed, and you got other wrestling companies out there that are providing a hybrid of wrestling, entertainment, wrestling showcases, if you will, for fans of all kinds. And now obviously Ring of Honor realizes that the only way they're going to possibly stay relevant is to basically evolve and to become something more, as they put it, fan-focused and unique in experience when it comes to the wrestling and for the wrestling fans. Now, to me, I think what Ring of Honor should have done is the one thing that's been knocking on their door since it was first basically brought to the table for all promotions to look into. And that's partnering with a very willing wrestling partner. And in this case, that being AEW. Because look what the partnership that AEW, did for Impact Wrestling. Look what good, in a sense, it did for them. It got exposure on their product. It got exposure on their championship. Yeah, AEW didn't promote much about Impact Wrestling, like the pay-per-views and everything like that, but still their talent that was on their program got to sometimes showcase what they could do, in an AEW ring. And by doing so, they were able to basically get people to come and watch Impact in some way or shape or form, whether it was through Access TV or Twitch or even YouTube, to see exactly, what Impact was about. And the fact that they put the belt on Kenny Omega and then Christian Cage, in a way, kind of helped, that exposure become more widespread than it was before. But now Impact Wrestling no longer is partnered with them, because I think the partnership, gave them enough exposure that they needed to where now they basically believe they can go on or carry on without partnering with AEW like they've did previously, to get people to watch their product, because now they got people pretty much back watching their product more so than ever. However, if there's any company, in my opinion, that really could benefit from a partnership with AEW when it comes to exposure, especially if you're trying to restructure your company and make it more appealing to a wider audience, no other company, I believe, needs a partnership with AEW more so than Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor, to me, needs that partnership with AEW more so than Impact did, more so than AAA does, more so than New Japan does, more so than any promotion does, more so than the NWA. Ring of Honor, to me, is the one that needs it the most. Especially if they're planning to try to come back with Super Card of Honor in 2022, they're going to need all the exposure and all the help they can get. And to me, a partnership with Tony Khan and All Elite Wrestling is the best direction to go. But again, to me, this right here, this is code for two things. One, financially, they're struggling and they need to let all the people go out of their contracts to financially reconstruct the company and figure out what they can spend, and not basically go over budget. But also the fact that they have to reconstruct themselves from a appearance standpoint to make themselves look more appealing and more attractive to the wrestling fans, so that they don't end up with an audience like they did for the last pay-per-view. Did you see what that audience looked like in that crowd? I mean, they may have had more people show up during the event, but still, did you see that crowd? I mean, Skyward Studios had more people when they allowed them back in for their pay-per-views for Impact Wrestling, compared to what we saw, at the arena for UMB, with the UMDB arena, whatever it was called, the UMBDBC arena, whatever it's called, the UMBDC arena. They had, Skyward Studios had more fans in comparison, when you think about it, than what they did for Ring of Honor, in a way. I mean, I saw more empty seats, even during the pay-per-view, than I ever seen anywhere. Not even with WWE, even with their low attendance at times, has never had something like that happen. And here's the thing, Ring of Honor, they should have hid that. They should have hidden the fact that they had a lot of empty seats, and instead should have hid that negative and focused on the positive. And that positive is, hey, look at the more crowded sections, or get fans to crowd into one area till it looks decent and full, and not expose your deficiencies, for the whole world to see. And to me, that is what basically may have caused Ring of Honor to start reevaluating the fact that, we're screwed. We are basically not in a good position right now financially and appeal-wise, which is why they're going with this whole, this whole situation of going on hiatus, for at least for the first quarter of 2022, with plans to try to come back in April of that year with Super Card of Honor. But like I said, the only way they're going to probably be able to do that is if they get people to partner with them like AEW. You get people like AEW to partner with you, you'll get that exposure you need, so that when Super Card of Honor happens, maybe AEW can help promote that, and they can say, hey, you can see all these talents that are part of Ring of Honor that are being exchanged here because of this partnership. Yep, you can see all these talents on the Supercard of Honor pay-per-view WrestleMania weekend, well, basically the weekend of WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas. And to me, that's probably the best direction they can go with. It really is. Because right now, this is not a good sign. I mean, even, what's his name, Tim of Pro Wrestling Unlimited, when he reported this, he was even wondering if we even will have a Ring of Honor come 2022, if they can't come up with something that can reconstruct the company within, eternally, as they call it, properly enough and financially enough to get them back on their feet. Because again, what this screams of is financially they're struggling, and they're struggling from an appealing standpoint to the wrestling fans. Because, here's the thing, like I said, back, while I tried to say before the phone rang, I think, back in the, early to mid to late 2000s, this style of wrestling from Ring of Honor was appealing. People loved it. They came in droves to watch it. And the same could go from, the early throughout the 2010s as well. The style of wrestling that Ring of Honor was giving for 10 years, before, or 10 to 20 years before the pandemic hit, was appealing and people were coming in droves. But the reality is, even as we got into the late 2010s, maybe a year or so before the pandemic, the fan base, the attendance was dying down. And obviously now Ring of Honor is realizing why that is. It's because of the fact that they were basically being the same kind of promotion they were before, or when they started, and basically that was losing interest in the wrestling fans' eyes. And now they're realizing, okay, if we're going to get that wrestling fan base back for us, we need to be more appealing. We need to be something that's different and unique, in the presentation. But also, like I said, this screams and cries out of financial, not just of, appealing wise to the, appealing and attraction wise to the wrestling fans, but it's also crying out and screaming out of financial struggle. And yes, we can put some blame on the pandemic. The pandemic didn't help by shutting a lot of places down and causing all the wrestling promotions, Ring of Honor, WWE, AEW, MLW, Impact, it didn't help, financially when, basically all the buildings were closed and the only way fans could watch was from home or through freaking interactive, screens lined up all over the place, so they could watch live as it happens, and then basically, go out and let another fan come in to take the place like WWE did with the Thunderdome. The point is in the long run, Ring of Honor, I think a lot of people knew that if there was going to be any kind of wrestling company tragedy or casualty, as a result of the after effects of the pandemic, I think a lot of people looked at companies like Ring of Honor and said, yeah, they're going to be one of them, if not the one. And guess what? We're seeing that effect. But here's the thing. If they have this, but here's the thing, and the silver lining to this. If they're making this announcement now, with plans to go on hiatus after Final Battle, at the end of the year, then obviously they are structuring and planning things as we speak, so that when it's all said and ready to go, hopefully, they'll be able to bounce back with Supercard of Honor. But the question is, where do a lot of these talents go now? Where do they go? And honestly, I think some of them are going to head to Impact, some of them are going to head to AEW, and some of them are going to head to WWE. Some will go to AAA because, that's where they basically came from, like some of the luchadors. And some of the Japanese wrestlers may go back to New Japan. But again, I think honestly from a in-country U.S. perspective, all three major promotions outside of Ring of Honor, actually all four major promotions, I should say, outside of Ring of Honor, maybe even five, they're going to get some new talents. I mean, here's the thing. It's telling financially. It's telling financially when one of your stalwart, wrestlers or teams in the Briscoes jump ship to GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, and in the first match they become the tag team champions, that right there, I think should have been a telltale sign that something was up. If the Briscoes, of all people, jump ship to another promotion, that to me should have been a telltale sign. So, to me, this obviously is a result of the pandemic, but hopefully it's something that Ring of Honor can bounce back from. Because I'll be honest, I don't think the wrestling fan base can see a wrestling year in 2022 without an ROH, for people to, to go to and work with and attend. I don't think they can visualize a wrestling world in 2022 without Ring of Honor. So hopefully they'll bounce back. And again, I think the best way for them to do that is to partner with AEW so they can get some exposure on them, and maybe part of that partnership is, AEW, when it gets towards April, promotes Ring of Honor's pay-per-view or comeback pay-per-view, Supercard of Honor, that obviously will take place in Dallas. Like I said, part of that partnership, will allow them to, get attention on that pay-per-view so that people will attend and maybe sell it out to welcome Ring of Honor back. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens and everything. But right now, like I said, the silver lining is if Ring of Honor is making this announcement now, if Sinclair Broadcasting is making this announcement now, then obviously they're currently working as we speak on trying to make things structurally better financially and appeal-wise as well when it comes to the wrestling fan base and to their product, their company as well. But what do you guys think of this whole Ring of Honor deal? What are your thoughts on them? And, where do you think the future holds for them? Do you think we'll see a Ring of Honor in 2022? Hopefully, we will. I believe we will. If they're starting this now, they're making this announcement now, then to me, by making this announcement, they're already working on a plan. Do you think, we'll see them back in 2022? Do you think maybe a partnership with AEW to help get them back on their feet, to help keep people's attention on Supercard of Honor, with AEW maybe promoting it for them, is the best direction to go? I mean, think about it. WWE, when they partnered with the ECW in '97, and they helped them promote the Barely Legal pay-per-view, guess what? The buy rates were huge for, ECW Barely Legal, the first, pay-per-view they had. And, that 2,300 arena, when it was known as the ECW arena, probably sold out more than they expected, ticket-wise. So if, a partnership with WWE can help ECW do that, then I think a partnership with AEW and AEW helping them promote Supercard of Honor in April of 2022 is a good solution for Ring of Honor. But what do you guys think? What do you think of this whole situation? Where do you think some of these talents will show up at, eternally? Not eternally, but from a wrestling, career perspective, what do you think they'll, show up at? Do you think they'll take a break? What are your thoughts? Comment down below, live chat during the premiere, which I believe you will. Like the video, check out the Teespring store. Also check out my Patreon at BW Rosas. Check me out at BW Rosas Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Check me out as well on Venmo to donate there. If you want to help expand the brand and everything, as well as check me out at Venmo at BW Rosas as well. But what do you guys think of this? This is huge. From a wrestling perspective, this is huge. Because, again, we knew the pandemic may affect, some combat sports and everything, wrestling, MMA, and all that. But to this extent, it is kind of surprising, but not really. But, again, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this whole situation? And I'll talk to you all later. But, again, this is huge. But give me your thoughts, and I'm out.